Diphenhydramine, commonly known as Benadryl, is an antihistamine that mimics the effects of anticholinergics, commonly used for allergies and as a non-habit forming sleep aid. It also has psychoactive properties that fewer people are aware about. It's mostly regarded as a kiddie drug, along with cough syrup, as you can buy it from any supermarket, and only most of them will ID you. Though dextromethorphan and diphenhydramine have given me some of the most intense experiences of my life, regardless of how dysphoric they usually were, I found enjoyment out of them, that is, before my body and mind couldn't take it anymore. I remember various experiences, alone and with friends. I guess I'll go through my second trip with DPH, around 750 milligrams, or 30 pills. It was a long time ago, so some of the events may be a little bit blurry, but I mostly remember it, at least the good parts. I just got back home from high school around 3:30 p.m., and I was planning on taking some Benadryl to make the afternoon a bit more interesting. I simply just took the stuff we had in our medicine cabinet. It wasn't in a bottle. The pills were individually wrapped, so it took several minutes of peeling them off in the bathroom. My fingernails were pretty irritated afterwards, but I downed the pills and threw away all the empty tabs in the trash. I waited a good while for things to kick in, going on the internet, listening to music, checking sites, etc. Until about 30 to 45 minutes in, I got the idea to go outside, because being in the living room with my parents probably wouldn't be the best idea, and being in my room just sounded a bit too boring. I got the idea to walk out to the power plant near the forest at the corner of my neighborhood. I must stress, never go out unattended while delirious. You will either hurt yourself or get caught and probably sent to the hospital. But I was young and dumb, and I had music with me to disconnect. I played some Animal Collective and their album Sung Tongs, and this was probably the best music I could have possibly chose. It was happy, yet insane. I made my way to my destination. In the midst of the journey, I came across a car that almost backed out of its driveway in front of me. Again, never go out alone. I couldn't feel any visual effects yet, but I could feel the pleasant body load you get at the beginning of the trip. I don't know what to compare it to. If you've ever taken muscle relaxants or benzos, it's kind of similar. When I got to the power plant, I had to jump over a fence to get to it, which was probably one of the hardest obstacles to get over, especially on a gravel road. I was surprised to maintain my balance as I got over to the forested side of the plant. I walked down a path which leads to an even more densely forested path. Not too far in, I get this premonition that I'm being stalked by wolves, or some kind of animal. This spooks me pretty bad, so I run back out near the power plant in the field. Right when I got out to the field, I look up in the sky to see two translucent motorcycles collide with each other to make a yin-yang symbol, and then turn into a UFO and dart out into space. I was dumbfounded, but it didn't make me too elated, as the Benadryl had just fully kicked in. I was trying to change music, though I couldn't control my iPod as easily. The touchscreen didn't respond, it seemed. Then out of nowhere, I see my friend sitting under a pine tree, smoking a joint. I didn't question it at all, and came up to John, and he asked me if I wanted to smoke with him. I unhesitantly acquiesced. I noticed a bit of euphoria in this moment, which is very rare for all the Benadryl trips I've had. Seeing my friend randomly with weed was a godsend. We smoked and talked, though I don't remember what we were talking about, though I could actually feel myself getting a bit high on weed. All I remember is dropping the joint in the grass, and my friend asked me, "Did you get it yet?" I looked up, and he was gone. I looked at my hand, and the joint was gone. It took me a good 30 seconds or so to realize what just happened. I just blanked out from pure astonishment and sedation. I waltzed up to the plant, next to a small maintenance building, and also caught a brief hallucination of one of my other friends teaching me how to play air guitar with a potato chip as a pick. Right as I snapped out of it, I noticed someone looking at me. It was one of my neighbors I knew from when I was a kid. I couldn't conjure up a sober reaction, but a jaded wave to her seemed to be good enough. I listened to some music again and noticed the sun setting. The sky turning red was sign enough that I should be going home, because fuck being in the forest at night while delirious. I don't remember too much on the walk home, though I do remember seeing a cat in a translucent golden scolta in a pine tree, which wasn't too scary because I could somewhat distinguish it between reality. First thing I noticed when I got home was that we got infested with ants again. They were on the corners of the walls and the floors. We used to get that a lot in our house, especially in the summer, though it was fall and it seemed kind of strange. I took a closer look at them, and my mom asked me what I'm looking at. I replied with nothing and walked to my room, not suspiciously at all. I get back into my room to realize that the ants were not real, and that there were also cobwebs in the corner of my room. I lay in my bed for a little bit, and my legs get a little bit tingly, as if something was crawling on them. I looked under the covers to see a couple small black spiders. I jumped out in pure fear, though I didn't make a sound. I just quickly swept my bed and with my hand and tried to look again. I noticed then that my vision had got a bit blurry, almost as if I had glaucoma. I would completely zone out on my wall and could see math equations, computer screens, chat windows, and some kind of esoteric writing that looked very ancient and ominous. I started to feel the paranoia as well as the dry mouth, so I went to the kitchen to get a drink. When I get to the fridge, I noticed my mom cooking something in a skillet. I had a really fucking stupid idea of trying to act sober and spark a conversation with her. I couldn't form words, let alone sentences. I just remember telling my mom that she reminded me of Mr. Game & Watch from Super Smash Bros. Melee when he does the little bacon move. She looked at me puzzled and asked, "What's that?" And I couldn't even form an explanation. I just said, "Oh, nothing," and just went back to my room with my drink. The rest of the day was a complete blur, though the visual effects were mostly gone. It was probably around 8 p.m. or so. Next day I got up, I went to school and had a pop quiz in my first period programming class, which was a really easy and basic class that I loved. But I had no ability to finish the test. I stared at the words, barely making them out, let alone comprehending them. I finished what I could and turned it in. About 5 days or so later, I got the test back to realize that I didn't even finish half of it. I still got around 40% though, which was still surprising to me. The rest of the day, I seemed to have collected myself fairly well. No one really noticed anything, surprisingly enough. I can't believe that I pulled off not getting caught. This was by far my most intense and pleasant experience with Benadryl, as I never got to the point where I've had full-on conversations with people who weren't there, though I have hallucinated them a couple of times. Most other times were filled with tons of spiders and ghoulish apparitions, thought loops and major dysphoria, though nothing much more. Not until I started mixing it with DXM, but I'll probably save that story for another time. I would consider Benadryl as a deliriant to be more intense than a lot of psychedelics. Not only does it completely debilitate you, the hallucinations are comparative to that of a psychosis patient. Child's play compared to the hypomania you get on psychedelics. I wouldn't really recommend this to anyone, though I wouldn't trade this experience for the world, as very few people can get to the delirium nirvana that I reached with Benadryl. It takes an unfamiliar environment, a very strong positive attitude, and really just pure luck. I cannot stress how unhealthy this is for you though, obviously. It can cause significant kidney damage, and I got some first-hand experience with that after a while of abusing it. Don't take Benadryl as a deliriant if you have glaucoma, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, depression, suicidal thoughts, heart problems, epilepsy, or seizures, or a predisposition to any of these things listed. Don't take it if you're a child or teenager or an elderly person. And definitely don't take it with any prescription medications. Really, just take it at your own risk. It's one of the most taxing experiences the human body can face.